All right, gentlemen, we're going to get started right now. I want to introduce everyone, Antoine and Tariq. And gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, do you want me, Tariq, to share the presentation, or do you want to do it?
I'll share first, and then.
Perfect.
So can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you, everyone. So this presentation is about ArangoDB, how we used ArangoDB with Prometheus and Kibana for building a system that's for monitoring and alerting. And this system is also free, which is pretty cool. And so my name is Eric Dauda. I'm the CEO of Buwr, and this is a joint presentation with Antoine Ziegler, who's the CEO of Buwr. So just a quick presentation to give you some context of what Buwr is. So the idea of Buwr is basically to bring back the feeling of reading an early 20th century journal into the 21st century, basically. So everything from the fact that it's entirely text-based to the fact that there's no comments, etc., is there to bring that calm and thoughtful experience that you could have at that time. And so that brings us to this very, very important question is, why did we choose to use basically ArangoDB, and why did we like ArangoDB so much that it actually justified the development of PyArango, which is the Python driver that we use for Buwr. And first of all, Buwr is obviously like a pretty ambitious project. So you get that old, calm and thoughtful experience, but with all the amenities that we came to like and expect. So you have subscriptions, you have follows, you have fees, you have searches, but you also have like a pretty challenging peer review scoring system for scoring the best articles and the best authors. So, and the nice thing with ArangoDB is that it allows us to do all that with a single database. So first of all, it allowed us to take all our users and arrange them into a graph of reviewers, a peer review graph that can get pretty big, and also we get, as a bonus, we get the documents, and we also get the cache value, which is a very, very interesting thing about ArangoDB, that it's that very interesting multi-model database. But it's also, and this was one of the biggest selling points, that it's super fast, super reliable, and very, very efficient when it comes to CPU and memory usage. So, and that peer review system is basically what decided us to, what's behind our decision to use ArangoDB, because we have this very, very large graph of users that can get very, very big. And to find the reviewers, we basically have to traverse all that graph and find the best reviewers for a certain post, and then get back and traverse the graph in the opposite direction to assign scores basically to the best posts, the best authors, and also the best reviewers. And this query can get extremely, extremely large. And ArangoDB is actually is fast indeed. So these are the results for stress tests that we've run recently, and for a very, very reasonable machine. So only 4 GB of RAM, CPU, 2 CPUs with 2.3 GHz on DigitalOcean. A single request for posting and peer reviewing is less than 1 second. And not only that, but we're only using 35% of the CPU and only 1.5 gigabytes of RAM to get through this whole graph of connections are exponential, so the graph is pretty huge, of 100,000 users. But the thing is, even if it works very well, sometimes it breaks. And for that, we need a system that can alert us, that can monitor what's happening, that can alert us if anything goes wrong. So with that, I'm giving the floor to my dear friend, Antoine.
Antoine, I believe your mic is muted.
Yes.
Sorry about that. So yeah, how do you want to do? Do you want to switch slide? No, I'll share. It's easier. Perfect. Share my screen. Hopefully you see it. And present. So do you all see my screen?
Yes,
Okay.
nice and clearly.
Perfect. So now I'm gonna, as Tarek mentioned, I'm the CTO of Buwr. So basically, I'm gonna take care of presenting you basically part of our infrastructure and how we monitor and most importantly alert it. And even most importantly, all that for free or almost, aside from the servers, obviously, in the cloud that we pay for. Now, Tarek and I are both very fond of everything that is related to automating our work. So in that regard, all our infrastructures is handled with infrastructure as code technologies. So Packer and Ansible are basically working together to create images on DigitalOcean. And then Terraform is taking care of spawning them when we need them and connecting all these tools together. This allows us for reliability, serves as documentation of our infrastructure, scalability too. Whenever we need a machine, we just need to add a few lines of code and there it is, a new machine connected to all this network. Now, as Tarek mentioned also, we use as a backend for Buwr, we only use ArangoDB. So we basically need to know if the host running ArangoDB is in good shape. We need to know if our web server is in a good shape. So how do we do that? We basically use Elasticsearch and Kibana, which historically were used as the ELK stack. It was called that like that because so E stands for Elasticsearch, L for Logstash, which is a small agent that is running on the machine and collecting, transforming, and inserting logs into Elasticsearch, and the K for Kibana, which is a web UI that helps you navigate through all this data, build dashboards, and many more features. I'm gonna go into a few of them later. So Elasticsearch these days has expanded its offer to not only collecting logs, but also many other information. And every information you collect comes with its little agent. And one of these agents is called metric beat, which allows to collect metrics from your host. What you do is you configure it and configure some modules that come along with metric beat. So in our case, it's only the system module collecting system metrics. So RAM usage, CPU usage, network, services, processes that run on the machine, you name it. And it's done automatically. All that is done automatically for us. We configure it, we say, collect all the system metrics, and it goes right away to Elasticsearch and can be observed using Kibana Web UI. Metric beat comes also with dozens of other modules. For example, if you're using a specific database like MySQL, MongoDB, they come with their own modules. You just tell them collect all these metrics from MySQL, and it brings them for you to Elasticsearch. Same goes if you have a Docker setup, collect all the metrics that Docker is exposing. A Kubernetes cluster, you can deploy metric beat on all the nodes of a Kubernetes cluster, and it's going to send all these metrics to Elasticsearch. So here's an example. On this panel, you can see this is an example of a dashboard that is also already provided by Kibana. So whenever you send metrics using metric beats, Kibana knows it, and it downloads some sample dashboards that you can use right away. So here, this is in this panel, we didn't build anything. This was all done automatically for us by Kibana. So on the top left, we can see that we have 4 services running on the machine. On the top right, we can see that all these services are active. And on the bottom part, we can see the amount of RAM that is used on this particular server for every service. Or no, not this particular host. Basically, this panel summarizes all services in all hosts. Obviously, with some filters, we can just display the services on a certain host. This is the global one. As I mentioned, it also collects network metrics, and these dashboards can look like this. I mean, I don't want to enter in all the metrics available. I just want to show you the whole picture of what Kibana does for you just by configuring MetricBit to send data to Elasticsearch. So all these dashboards, again, we didn't build anything. They're all here for us by default. Now, all this is really interesting, but this only gives us data about our server, right? We still don't have any information about how ArangoDB is doing. So, as most of you know, ArangoDB has a very useful metrics on its web UI, telling you how ArangoDB itself is doing. So we wanted to have all our metrics in one central place, which makes it easier for us to look for issues, not at many different places. So how did we do that? Basically, ArangoDB exposes its metrics through an API and in a JSON format that is compatible with Prometheus. So it's well documented on the ArangoDB website. And Prometheus basically scraps this JSON every amount of time. So let's say every minute, Prometheus scraps the data and exposes it itself through an API. And MetricBit, as I mentioned, has many, many modules. One of them is collect metrics from Prometheus. So Prometheus is here exposing data from ArangoDB. MetricBit is collecting them from Prometheus and sending them automatically to Elasticsearch, which makes them available to us to build more dashboards. And here you see, as a screenshot, in the metric explorer of Kibana Web UI, we now all have all these metrics that ArangoDB is displaying and sharing with us, and we can build as many dashboards as we want to monitor ArangoDB itself, which is what allowed us basically to go to do these stress tests that Tariq mentioned earlier. Now, all that is really nice, but as you also most probably understand, my job is not really to stare at dashboards all day. So these metrics, what we want to do with them is build an alerting system that tells us when anything goes wrong, and this dashboard will then help figure out where it went wrong. Now, Kibana has this, as I said, it's not only an data exploration or dashboard building system. It also allows us to build alerts. So you define a threshold for a metric, and then Kibana allows you to define. So this alert threshold, it enters for this metric in a state of alert, and then it triggers an action. These actions are, you can have many, many actions available. However, most of them are only paid features for Kibana. So the only free one is what they call an alert log, which works the following way. Every time an alert is triggered, Kibana will write a log line in its own logs saying this metric is in the state of alert or warning or resolve. Then what we chose to do is basically not pay for this feature because it comes in a whole package for which we don't mostly don't need any features. We only need this one. If you want to pay, you can have access to any kind of action, saying I want to send an alert to my Slack channel, to my Discord, to an email, to any others, to many other systems. There are dozens of actions available. Now, what we did, as I mentioned, as we only need this this one feature in the whole package, we built a little agent, and at Buwr we call them elves. So we have this little elf helping us, which is basically a Python agent reading the log file and telling us whenever there is an alert and sending it to our Discord. And that's basically how we monitor all our infrastructure and alert on it for free. And here is what it can become on our Discord channel. We have a channel dedicated to alerts, which says here, for example, there is high CPU usage. It's only a warning, but still need to know. Then high memory, for example, and then it also tells you at the very bottom here when it recovers. And that's what we wanted to share with you guys today. So,
thank you everybody for.
Are we in the question and answer section now, gentlemen?
Yes.
All righty. I'll go ahead and help you read through the Q&A. So the first question is from Karim. Have you considered something like Bluwt or FluentTD? Is it because of Kibana?
Sorry, I didn't. Oh yeah, I see the Q&A section right now. Okay. Something like FluentBit or FluentD.
FluentID. Yeah, so there are other stuff for monitoring. So we one of the main things, because I can also see, like, from Karim Naufal, I can also see that there's a question about Kubernetes just downstairs. So one of the main things, very important thing for us, is to keep our stack as small and lean as possible. So that's also the reason why we use very little stuff. We write our own agent elves, and the idea is that we have a lot of very small agents that perform very small tasks, and we have a whole farm. Basically, the idea is to have a whole farm of them that do different stuff with Buwr and besides Buwr, like for example the alerting elf that you've seen. And Kubernetes and for now is overkill, basically, for what we need.
Exactly.
So we were able to get our stack to basically the minimum of what we need and get really good performances. That's also the reason why we use ArangoDB, because ArangoDB allows us to have just one single database and not have a whole farm of databases to perform the same job.
Yes, and I'm going to add also, as you said, it keeps us simple and it's overkill for us, and it would also be way more expensive to have a Kubernetes cluster for us, considering we only need 5 servers total, 5 small servers. Kubernetes comes with its own kind of complexity and needs in terms of RAM and CPU that would basically cost us way, I think, at least double the cost of what we have right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So it seems like we were able to answer 2 in 1 of the questions, right?
Almost. And I have to admit, yes, FluentBit or FluentD, I don't really know them, but yes. So the part with the Prometheus and Grafana, we consider Grafana is actually the one that is documented on ArangoDB's website, coming with the Prometheus. But the thing is, Kibana, as I said, also comes with a lot of dashboards already built, and that is that is the main reason why we chose Kibana, also because it comes along with Elasticsearch right away. Grafana also needs another PostgreSQL in the background, so that goes again with what Tariq said. We use a minimal amount of technologies and resources.
Okay.
Hopefully it answers both questions.
Thank you. By the way, round of applause for you both. Thank you so much for your presentation. I have a question while we wait for the audience to ask some more. Actually, we have one more from the audience. So from Joshua, he's like, how much manual interaction do you need with this setup? Have you had any problems with resilience and bottlenecks?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yes.
The amount of interaction is actually minimal. We don't need much.
Almost inexistent, actually.
Inexistent. It's like the elves do all the job and send us everything we need to know on Discord. So that's basically the great thing about one of the great things about this setup. And when it comes to resilience and bottlenecks, obviously Buwr is not out yet. Actually, you can join on Buwr.com if you can join and get a chance to be part of the closed beta, but the website doesn't exist yet. So all the information that we have from stress tests that we performed, and we went up to 1 million users. We spawn 1 billion bots basically that represent users, and then they write and they review and they do all the things that users are supposed to be doing on Buwr. And we've identified a few bottlenecks, but they were not linked to the setup. They were linked to the way I had programmed the thing. We fixed that, and now I think we have basically no bottlenecks. So it's pretty cool.
And if the question also concerns infrastructure, to spawn all this infrastructure, in total we can start the whole infrastructure in, I would say, 6 command lines. 3 to build the base images that we use. No, 4, because we have 4 different types of servers for which we have a base image that we build with Packer. So 4, and then 1 command line to ask Terraform, the tool that is infrastructure code, to plan what needs to be done, and then apply what needs to be done. So in a total of 6 command lines, we have this whole setup started and all connected, speaking with each other with the automated generated passwords that are hidden and never displayed to anyone.
Exactly, and I'll add one single thing is that this whole setup. I mean, Antoine hasn't presented the whole thing, but the fact that we use Terraform and infrastructure as code, etc., gives us tremendous resilience. Because as Antoine said, we can restart if there's a problem. We can restart Buwr very quickly, and we can also change the cloud provider very quickly if there's any issues.
Follow-up question from Joshua. What technologies are you using for stress testing?
Yeah, another good question. We use our own. So basically, what Antoine presented is the technology that we use for stress testing, basically. So all the reporting is basically what Antoine showed. And for the users, we have our own set of agents that we call ghosts, and we can spawn as many as we want. So we have programmed that so we can spawn as many as we want concurrently and just let them run.
And it seems to be there's a glitch in the matrix. I'm seeing 2 Antoine Ziggers.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You guys broke the matrix, and now there's 2 of you crossing timelines.
Not sure what happened there.
That's what we do here at ArangoDB. You know, we break the simulation. Sweet. I have a quick question while we're waiting for other audience members to ask their own. What was your guiding light when you're first putting together the project in the beginning? Was it sort of like filling a niche or a hole in the market? Was it sort of like looking at competitors for a particular product and you're like, we can do it better? Or was it sort of something that came out of your own inspiration when you were first coming up with Buwr?
Buwr. Yeah, we saw basically the need for something like something that's not exactly an alternative, but something that's complementary to the media that people use today. And so I had, well, basically this idea that you could be alone and read the news, has completely disappeared basically today, because there's always comments, there's always images, there's always videos. Your attention is always, I mean, you know what it is. So basically the idea is to get back that certain aspect. We can just like sit down and read. It could be the news, it could be like a small story, it could be something. And so that's basically the idea behind Buwr. That's what gave us the idea.
That's really good. Actually, that is really good, because it's so difficult to find time or space for just like a pure reading experience. Just like, I don't want ads, I don't want other distractions, just want to read. And yeah, I like that. That's really cool. I'm really excited for. How far along is the project, or when do you forecast that you might be able to put something out there for people to, you know, beta test, perhaps?
Very soon.
I like that.
Soon.
That's a good answer.
We're over 90% finished, and we're very, very close to the first closed beta. And the reason why we're beginning with a closed beta is because we really want to make sure that when we launch it, it's ready. And so we want to iron out all the little details, the interface, the buttons, maybe that people don't like, the icons, and all that. So that's the job for the first closed beta. And then we plan on having an open beta. That's we're going to open it in stages, but the beta will be open, and everybody will be able to read what's on Buwr. Just like we will cap that. The plan might change, but at the moment we're just opening the subscriptions little by little, just so that we don't get overwhelmed. Basically, that's it.
Okay, that makes sense. And what's the best, if the community wants to get involved or help out or contribute in any way, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, yeah, thank you. The first way is just to go on Bluwr.com and register, and you get our mailing list. We post updates every week about what's going on in Buwr on our blog also. So it's blog.bluwr.com. You'll get that automatically if you're on the mailing list, but you also get invited to the betas if you're on the mailing list. So that's another advantage. And also, if you want to help out with the code, there's PyArango. And PyArango, basically, I started PyArango because of Buwr. Then I ended up using ArangoDB for all the stuff like my research and a lot of different things. But ArangoDB was spawned basically because of Buwr, and Arango is what we use to connect Buwr to our ArangoDB database. So if you want to help out, you could just join us and develop Arango with us and the rest of the community.
And how? Perfect, thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely, please feel free to share with me any links, any relevant links that you'd like me to share, and I can put it in the community Slack. I'm curious to know about the length of time and sort of the hours of work, and even intricate details like lines of code that it took to like get from zero, an idea in your head, to like, oh, here we are announcing this thing and it's coming along.
Oh, that's a pretty long story. It's
yes,
it's like 8 years.
Wow. Wow, congratulations for sticking it out. That's some good dedication.
Thank you. So we tried different technologies, and to be honest, ArangoDB was not our first choice. So I started developing a version of MongoDB. So sorry, there are MongoDB people here, but we've abandoned the MongoDB version and switched to ArangoDB. So there were many changes of stack, just to make sure that the stack stays as lean, as efficient as possible. When it comes to lines of codes, it's probably hundreds of thousands of lines of codes. So Buwr is pretty big, and it's mainly written in Python, but we also have JavaScript, of course. So and the apps are written in Python. So we do pretty much everything in Python, but the interface basically is in JavaScript. And but it's a pretty huge project. It's crazy. Like if you have to think, it looks very simple when you look at it on the interface, but actually it's so many layers of codes that are behind it to make all this possible.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, congrats for sure for sticking it out. That's a lot of dedication, and I definitely admire that. I have a question in terms of features or or functionality that would be amazing if ArangoDB had it? You know, what comes to mind in terms of, in the context of like Buwr and ArangoDB, sort of like what would make it even better for your purposes?
Okay, cool. So I'll start and then I leave Antoine, because I know that Antoine has some ideas. That mine is mine is simpler. The thing with ArangoDB has always been one step ahead of us, which is pretty cool. So now we would like, for example, to have like a search engine that's basically more elaborate, more sophisticated, and ArangoDB is doing that. So that's pretty cool. There's also all the machine learning that's being done on the graphs. And I'm really excited to see what ArangoDB would come up with that, because machine learning is also my specialty. And I'm really, really excited to see what ArangoDB, like graphs and machine learning and ArangoDB, what new features are coming. So like very shortly, I don't need anything at the moment because ArangoDB has always been one step ahead. And I'm very excited about what's coming. But I know Antoine has some ideas.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, there are two basically different ideas. As you saw, the way we collect the data is kind of in two steps. Remember, there is this ArangoDB that's exposing metrics and sending the Prometheus is scrapping them, and then the metric beat is basically sending them to Elasticsearch. One really nice feature would be to have a metric beat module itself, like they have for MongoDB, for MySQL, for Docker. It would basically shrink our stack to get it to Elasticsearch. One less technology, and removing technology and code is always a nice things I like to do, basically. So this is the very first one, and the second one is as a backend of Buwr, there's, as you saw, except for the monitoring, ArangoDB does the job perfectly. There's one tiny detail that we didn't manage to do with the ArangoDB. The only thing that is not text-based on Bluwr.com, and that is the profile pictures. And I've read a whole thread about ArangoDB, and I'm not sure it's something that ArangoDB wants to do, and they might have very good reasons. So it would be appreciated to be able to store images also in ArangoDB, so we wouldn't have needed something else for that. But if it's something you guys don't want to handle, it's also very comprehensible.
Yeah, this is definitely a message I can relay upwards. So okay. Definitely appreciated that. Question. I have another question in terms of like, where do you see Buwr being? Where do you aim to be 5 years from now? I know projecting into the future is difficult, but I always like listening to people's visions.
Okay, so we see it as basically becoming the new newspaper platform. So you would we envision people taking like a calm moment to basically take a cup of coffee and just read. It could be reading anything. It could be like reading the news. It could be like reading short stories. It could be like just having some time, like alone time with like where you can think and take the time to make up your own opinions. And this is something that that I found personally very, very hard to do with today's technology. And so this is how we see Buwr, what we see basically Buwr becoming. And in terms of a more elaborate description, I guess a lot of people writing on it, a lot of people reading on it, and maybe we for example, we thought of having some collaboration with some coffee shops. So maybe we'd have like some Buwr things in coffee shops too. So that would be cool. And yeah, and also we have some. I can't tell you everything, but we have some great ideas for merchandising.
Okay, I like that. Antoine, any ideas, any vision that you might want to share as well, or you're okay?
No, I would say, yeah, same as Tariq. If everyone could enjoy the calm space to make their own opinion also. And that part is, I think, very important. One of other things that I don't think we mentioned is that we're going to favor, one thing that we're going to try to do also with Buwr is break the information bubbles, which is, I think, a necessary step to make your own opinions and not stay within one small
Silo.
bubble
Yeah.
silo. Yeah, exactly. So if we manage to do that, I would be very, very happy. And I think we have the proper tools to do them. So if Buwr becomes popular enough, I think that's a reason. That's a realistic objective.
Bringing people together through the written word.
Well, consider me your first subscriber. That sounds like an awesome plan. That's so much information silos. People are in there. They need to get out and expand their worldview.
Yes.
That's amazing. I have a question about your challenges, though. I want to know more about, like, what are your current biggest challenges, and what are your thoughts in terms of how you're going to overcome them?
Yeah. So to be honest, our biggest challenge is marketing, just so people know that Buwr exists. So that's our challenge number one. Antoine and I are we're very technical guys. So this is where we come. This is our world. So we come from the world of research and development and things like that. So, but not from the world of marketing. And so the technical aspects we pretty much have covered. And we can have Buwr running with a very small team and a very low cost, so which is pretty cool. But the marketing aspects, this is our biggest challenge, and to getting the word out so people know that Buwr exists, and that people basically, that's it. People know that Buwr exists. That's our main challenge. Challenge number one.
I would add that challenge number two will be, we need to get as many people from the start, as many diverse people and diverse opinion from the start also, to make it work, to avoid people thinking that we're only covering literature or only covering biology, only covering finance. So this is going to be crucial for us also, because we want to favor this eclecticism and diverse ideas, and that's the very hard part. It would be way easier basically for us to target a specific set of people, but then it would basically break the philosophy of the whole project.
What's your, speaking of philosophy, what's your philosophy and your approach to, what could potentially become a challenge? And that is sort of like filtering out or moderating content that might be too extreme, and so I wonder how do you think you'll tackle that challenge?
Yes, so the first thing is that we have it easy at Buwr because we're entirely text-based, so we don't have to moderate images and videos, which can be the most shocking things. Basically, are usually images or videos, so we don't have to deal with that. That's pretty cool. The next thing is it's our peer review system that will take care of the reviewing. So it's not us really that we're going to do the review, but the users of Buwr. And that's why we need to be as diverse as possible and bring preference from the beginning, because otherwise the whole system will be skewed. So we don't want to be skewed to certain opinions or certain things. We want like the best review system possible. A little bit like how research works, like peer review system in scientific papers. So if you're only sending your papers to the same people, then it's not really peer review. So what we want is something like that, but for basically everybody. So this is how we are thinking of basically handling that problem of extreme extreme messages, for example, extreme posts. The community should be able to handle that.
Thank you for that. I always enjoy putting this question out as sort of a thought experiment. If I could give you a time machine to visit Tariq and Antoine from 8 years ago when you're first starting up with Buwr, what advice would you give your past self? Besides buy Bitcoin, besides that, what else?
I'll let you begin, Tariq.
Okay, I would say basically use ArangoDB. It was called AvocadoDB back then. It wasn't even called ArangoDB. So that's the first thing I would say. Learn infrastructure as code. That would be a very important advice I would give myself. And also don't spend too much time with JavaScript libraries. Like to give you like a short story, the first front end, the first comprehensive Buwr front end was built on Angular #1. And then they changed it to Angular #2, and then Angular #2 is not backward compatible with Angular #1. So yeah. So my advice would be don't spend too much time on trying to learn JavaScript library. Just choose a good one and stick with it. And I can tell you that we are sticking with Vue, and with Vue 2 for now. We're not moving to Vue 3 until we launch Buwr. So that would be my advice.
Mine is basically weirdly going to be less technical compared to all the other answers I gave. So fun story. First time Tariq asked for my help for Buwr, I said no. And I would say to myself, well, take the time and say yes right away because it's worth it.
Oh.
Because at that time, basically, I had just quit my PhD, changed a new career from bioinformatics to big data. I had a lot to learn. I didn't have much time. And I said to Tariq, I'm sorry, this looks very promising, but unfortunately, I don't have much time. And if I start doing that, I don't want to say to you yes, and then in 2 months, get a burnout and let you down. So I'd rather say no. And basically a few years later, he came back and said, hey, still interested? I said, and then I said yes. So my advice would be say yes right away and make some time, figure out how to free some time to start working on it right away.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories. Yeah. You know, hindsight is only 2020. And again, that thought experiment is just for fun. You know,
it's a nice one.
Thanks. And I'm so happy you guys have been able to join us. Do you have any closing thoughts, anything that you want to put out to the audience before we start bringing things to a close?
I would say thank you, and thank you also for organizing this. It was a very pleasant moment. I really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, you know what? I think with that being said, we're going to start bringing things to a close. Antoine, Tariq, how can people stay in touch? How can people follow up with what you're doing these days and contribute, connect, network, all that good stuff?
Okay, so it's very easy. We have a Twitter channel, Buwr Official, Buwr_official. We also have an Instagram, Buwr_official, where we're sharing like nice quotes. But the best way is to just go on Buwr.com and register to the mailing list. That's the #1 way. You'll get everything. Okay.
Perfect. That being said, gentlemen, I foresee a bright future ahead of you both. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
And as always, if there's anything this community, ArangoDB community can do, I can do for you, please let me know. I'm here to help. We're here to help. Once again, thanks so much for your time. Amazing presentation. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. And to the audience, thank you everyone for joining us for day 3 of ArangoDB Dev Days. It's been quite the pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow for Dev Days Day 4. The fun continues. The party must go on. And so the show ends for now. Good night, everyone. Catch you all later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later.